Hi guys, it's Caitlin, and today I am here to talk to you about the Shadowhunters Season 1 finale entitled Morningstar. My brief spoiler-free review goes first, along with my grade rating, and then I'm going to give you kind of a brief synopsis of what happened, and then my opinion step by step as they occurred. My review of this episode basically entails that as an episode it was fine, as a finale I didn't like it. The acting, for the most part, was good. The action was okay. There are still some things that they're doing with the action sequences, with the blurring of the characters and their movements, that I'm still not enjoying. I did feel like there were some really awkward scenes where the interactions were really stunted and strange, and I'm not sure if that was the actors or how the scene was written, but it was really bizarre to me. And overall, I just felt like as a finale, it was very anticlimactic. There wasn't as much action as I expected. There wasn't as much closure on some of the storylines as I was hoping for. And there wasn't really a major setup for future events. I think there was setup for like one event and that was it. So overall, unfortunately, as an episode, I would have to give this one a B-, maybe a C+. I really wasn't digging it. So that was a little bit disappointing. So in this episode, Jace and Clary are still struggling to come to terms with their relationship and with who they are in relation to each other, about being brother and sister, both being the children of Valentine. Alec is having issues with his parents after coming out and leaving Lydia at the altar. Hodge gives the Mortal Cup over to Valentine, who uses it to start building a Shadowhunter army before banishing Hodge, saying that his disloyalty makes him not Circle member material. Clary, Simon, and Isabel go to the Hotel de Mort to take Camille to get the information about where the Book of the White is. In the end, Jace joins Valentine. They awake Jocelyn from her slumber, and it's revealed that Valentine is building an army of Shadowhunters to go against the Clave. So now we are getting into my opinions step by step as they occur. The episode opens up on Clary and Jay sitting in a room kind of arguing. She's trying to convince him that he's not bad. He's convinced that he's evil because of who his father is. And she's trying to say, look, like, if you're evil, I'm evil, and I don't think I'm evil. But just because you have the same blood as this person doesn't mean that you're bad or you're bound to follow in their footsteps. And he says, yeah, you can say that, but I was actually raised by Valentine. You were raised by Jocelyn. It's different. Alec is trying to speak to his mother about some of the situations that are going on, and she's basically giving them the silent treatment. And when he finally says, is this about last night? Is this about me coming out and being with a guy? And she's like, it's not that it's a guy. It's about who the guy is. There's so much about Magnus that you don't know. He's a Lothario. He's known. He's got a history of kind of playing with people's minds and hearts like this. And then she kind of storms off. Alec goes looking for Lydia because he wants to talk to her and apologize to her, and he runs into Magnus on the way. They find her unconscious on the floor. They're using all these runes to try to help her, but apparently she's injured, so even Magnus is barely able to get her functioning and to save her, which I don't really understand because I thought that she just got hit in the head with something. I didn't realize that she was like murdered. I thought she was just knocked unconscious. So that was a little bit unclear how they can survive like demon attacks and demon poisonings with an Aratsi, but somehow getting knocked out with like a vase or something, whatever it was, is going to kill you to the point where a warlock can barely save you even with the help of an Aratsi. Then Izzy shows the footage on their like camera things showing that it was Hodge. So they're like, okay, it is Hodge. He's betrayed us. And then they rewind it to go back to the night of the Forsaken, trying to figure out how he got the ring that he turns when he's in the room with Jocelyn, and they discover that apparently when the Forsaken attacked the Institute, it wasn't an actual attack. The Forsaken were like ring bearers. One of them had the ring on, and after Hodge killed it, he took the Forsaken's ring off and put it in his pocket. And I'm kind of curious if I were to go back and watch that episode, if I would see that scene, or if it was a scene that didn't actually exist. That'd be interesting to find out, but honestly, I'm not going to take the time until it's on Netflix or something. Then we get the scene where Hodge actually goes to Valentine and hands over the Mortal Cup. Valentine takes the cup and dips it in this like giant fish tank full of this weird colored liquid, and he goes, let this cup purify this blood. I'm just kind of unclear, like, was that supposed to be actual blood in there, or was he making like a metaphor about purifying the people with the sight's blood so that they could now be Shadowhunters and have angel blood in their veins? And then he gives the cup to somebody and he tells him to drink it. He'll only survive if he's strong enough and if he's good enough. The guy drinks it, collapses, gets back up, and Valentine's like, I've created a Shadowhunter. And I'm gonna be honest, I was wondering if maybe these were Circle members or Shadowhunters and they were bringing in the Darkened storyline with Valentine in control in an earlier section, and I was just really confused. But he said it was a Shadowhunter, so I guess I have to believe him. Like, how did he find this many people willing to do it who weren't even gonna act nervous about knowing that they could die while being fed this stuff? Then we jump back to the Institute where Jace and Alec are preparing to go after Valentine. Clary jumps in. She's like, you're not thinking clearly, you're upset. And Jace says, you need to wake up Jocelyn. Jocelyn has beat Valentine once before. We need her if we're going to get through this, but for now we can't let him get away. Alec asks Jace how they're even going to track Hodge, who has the Mortal Cup and is taking it to Valentine, because he left nothing of his own behind. And that's when Jace calls Luke and is basically like, we need you to track him. So Luke and the werewolves are the ones out there tracking Hodge. Then we jump back to the pier where Valentine and Hodge are interacting, and Hodge is like, I'm so ready to join you, I'm so ready for this to happen. And Valentine essentially tells him, do you think that I'd allow a traitor into my ranks? And essentially he proves that just because you did this huge favor for me doesn't mean you're allowed to be with me. Go off. You're dismissed. Get away before we kill you here. You don't have to worry about the Clave anymore because the Clave's days are numbered. They're going to have their hands too full with me destroying them to worry about you anymore. Then we jump to where Clary and Isabel have gone with Simon to the Hotel du Mort because they revealed that they need Camille, and Camille's in the basement. Raphael and Simon have a really good relationship in this scene, so I thought that was pretty interesting because I know that in the books, they had a very bad relationship at best. It was very weak. It was very distrustful. They never really liked each other. But in this show, like, Simon is actually like Raphael's right-hand guy. But I really enjoyed that relationship they have. And I really like their friendship and their interactions throughout the episode. But then Raphael tells them, look, I'll bring you all of Camille's things, but I'm not going to let you talk to her. She's too dangerous. And of course, Clary has to be all antagonistic. Like, you're making a mistake. A mistake. Clary just thinks she knows best at all times. Like, I just don't understand. And then we jump to where Hodge has left the pier because Valentine has basically been like, get away from us. And there's like werewolves running everywhere. And he's just hiding so they don't see him. And I'm just like, why are these werewolves even pretending that they're tracking him? Like, they have noses. They're in their wolf form. Shouldn't they be able to like sniff the air and be like, wow, he's 5 feet freaking away from me? But no, they don't notice him. They don't know he's there. They just keep running. And then Jace appears out of nowhere and like slams Hodge into the wall and is like, where's the cup? Then they get into this fight and Hodge makes this comment that I totally saw coming, which is like, you can't beat me. I taught you everything you know. And Jace is like, not everything, Batman voice. That is so tropey. Like, at least throw me off my game a little bit. They fight, and they still have those really irritating blur effects. Like, I don't understand them. They're not even going super fast. They're just fighting at regular speed with just some slight blur all the time. It'd be one thing if it was like Clary and Jace doing it, but everybody does it at normal speed. A throwback to the first time they did this at the beginning of the season. I was like rubbing my eyes and like checking my signal because I was sure that it wasn't actually happening. It was just a glitch on my end, like buffering was off. It doesn't look cool. It doesn't look impressive. It just looks like there's a glitch and it's just kind of tracking across the screen a little bit more slowly than it should. Then Jace manages to cut off Hodge's hand and about to kill Hodge when Alec stops him. Alec and Luke turn and start trying to help Hodge to keep him from dying or bleeding out, and his hand that was cut off has the ring on it, so Jace goes over, takes it off, puts it on his own finger, twists it, and talks to the hologram of Valentine. Luke and Alec are right behind him, and they don't even notice. And then we jump back to the Hotel du Mort, where Raphael and Isabel are talking. She's going through the things of Camille's that Raphael brought up, and he goes, I thought you guys were looking for a book. And she's like, we are. And then you find out she's really just acting as a distraction while Simon and Clary sneak down into the basement to break Camille free. Then we have like an Isabel versus Raphael fight scene where she's like trying to use her whip on him and he's just speeding out of the way. And honestly, I felt like it was a bit much. I didn't like that scene. I didn't feel like it really contributed anything to the plot. I didn't think it really contributed anything to helping Simon and Clary get down to Camille any faster or any better, or kind of distracting him, because all it did was imply that she's a shadow hunter who went into this vampire's home, asked him for a favor, and then physically attacked him. All you did was break any trust. Then we jump back to the underground garage thing where Luke and Alec are talking, and Alec is telling Luke, you know, Jace is out of control. I know that this messed with him, but there's something else going on in his head, and I don't know what it is. And Luke is like, I saw this 18 years ago with Valentine. And Alec is like, whoa, yeah, no. And then they turn around, and Jace and Hodge are gone. And I really don't know how they are so unobservant at all times. Simon and Clary get down to the basement. They're aware that going and doing what they're doing is going to break this peace treaty thing that they have with the Downworlders. And Clary's like, it has to happen. It has to be done. When what I don't understand here is it's like, who are you to make this decision? I just feel like she is very, very too much involved in making these huge world decisions that affect the whole Shadowhunter, the whole Downworld, and yet she has no qualms about it. She doesn't even think for a second, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. She just freaking does it. So they open the coffin, and then Camille's just lying there, and she's like, she's dead. And Simon's like, well, what were you expecting? And then Camille sits bolt upright like, wah! And then you just think, okay, she's gonna bite her. And yet the next scene after the commercial break is Clary with her seraph blade against Camille's throat. And I'm just like, okay, so you filmed this scene of her bolting upright, but really that scene was just for shock value before the commercial break. It had no actual relevance to what actually happened in that scene, because otherwise, if it had happened as it happened before the commercial break, Clary would not have had time to put that friggin' seraph blade against Camille's throat. Period. I'm still not convinced about Camille. She still doesn't feel like Camille to me. I don't get any Camille vibes. She doesn't feel hard for me. She just feels like a high school mean girl, snarky little bitch, as opposed to like this very powerful ancient ruler of a bunch of vampires. Also, she's not blonde, and that really freaking bothers me, and her makeup was fucking weird. We jump back to Jace, where he is torturing Hodge to get the location of the mortal cup. At this point, I'm just like, okay, he's using the excuse, I don't know, I'm evil, you know, my father is my father, and I'm going to be just like him because I have no other choice. But he's making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. The only one making these choices, making these corrupt, evil decisions is him. He's not being forced to do this. His friends aren't doing this. He's the one making these choices, going against his friends every time they're like, there is another way, dude. Just like, stop. Freaking driving me insane. Like, it happened to a certain extent in the books, but in this show, it's just like extreme to the max. There's no insecurity about it. It's just him being a psychopath. Then we get to the scene where Simon, Clary, and Camille are trying to get out of the Hotel du Mort, but when they come up into the main conference area, Raphael and all the other vampires are there, and Raphael is pissed. And Simon's like, I guess it's too late to put her back in the box, right? And Raphael's like, yeah. And he basically says that Camille and Simon are now on the hit list, so all vampires have a go to kill them. Luckily, right before it can start, Isabel breaks down the wall, creating a beam of sunlight. I'm not really sure how she broke through, how she knew just that spot. I'm just gonna let that one go. And I did like the dialogue there, because earlier, Raphael and Isabel first started kind of their fight scene. He looks at her and he's like, typical Shadowhunter underestimating a vampire. Breaks down the wall, she looks at Raphael and she's like, typical vampire underestimating a Shadowhunter. Adios. I loved her sass. I saw a poll on Facebook today. Who was the sassiest character of the finale? And I've got to say that it was definitely Isabel, because no one else was sassy at all. So then they're walking through like these underground tunnels, and Camille reveals, I don't remember where it is, but I'll give it to you in exchange for a transmutation agreement, essentially saying that Simon wanted to be turned into a vampire, so I didn't break any laws. You bitch. And they end up at Magnus's house. Camille is just totally fucking with Magnus's head. And then she kisses him just as Alec arrives with Luke. But the fact that Magnus acts super sketchy about it is what made it a little bit weird, because I felt like he shouldn't have acted that weird. And then we do get some sass from Magnus, where every time Camille talks, he's just like looking at Alec like, she's crazy. And then Camille looks at Alec and she's like, this is the one, huh? You definitely have a type. And like, if she'd referred to like why this was his type, or made a reference to Will Herondale at this point, it would have made more sense. But as of now, it's just like all that we know about him as that he dated like a Peruvian boy and he dated you. Like, how is this his type? I don't understand. Valentine threatens Jace's friends. Jace freaks out, goes searching for them, starts calling them over and over. Nobody is answering, and I'm not really clear why, because later they answer and there's no actual reason for them not to answer. It doesn't show them ignoring the phone calls. They're not super busy. They're not fighting for their lives. Then they go back to Camille's house, and Simon is forced to sign the agreement, and then Camille's like, I have no idea where the book is, honestly. Like, you can look all over for it if you want, but I don't know where it is. And then Jace calls Clary and she finally answers. And as he's walking behind this car and there's like smoke coming out of it. And I'm just like staring at the car behind him. Like I kept thinking that was gonna be important, but it never was. Like I just don't know why he was walking past a smoking car and then he stops and you can still see like the steam from the engine coming up behind him. I don't know why I latched so hard onto that detail, but I did, and I need an explanation and I don't freaking understand. Then Clary's kind of going through the book. She finds this cookbook like her mom used to make, and she's like, this is the one, you know, it just feels right. And then she's like flipping through the pages, and you can see the bookmark very clearly. And instead of just flipping straight to this bookmark that looks exactly like the bookmark that she has in her hand, she just slowly flips through the pages, and then she opens to the bookmark, and she's like, it matches. Well, no shit, you could see it from the freaking outside the second you picked it up. Like, I don't understand. Like, explain why? She puts the piece of the bookmark that she has against it, fuses together, and the cookbook transforms into the Book of the White. And of course, that's when Valentine arrives, and they capture everybody within seconds. Simon goes after Valentine. Valentine knocks him aside like a little freaking baby pansy ass. And then all of them are captured and held at Seraph Blade Point, including Magnus, which is like, why? How? Valentine sits there and threatens Jace's friends, says he'll kill them unless Jace comes with him. Jace, of course, is like, okay, I'll go with you. Valentine's men release all of the friends, they all go through the portal, and then Jace is the one holding his friends off with this Seraph Blade swinger dude thing. And then he goes through the portal as well. Clary tries to chase after him. Alec is the one who grabs her, keeps her from going through, and then he like holds her as she cries, and that's really sweet. Like, I'm still saying Alec is my favorite character in this show. Then we jump back to the Institute where we have some really great Simon-Clary goodness moments where Simon uses the lines, love makes you stronger, we're going to get Jace back, we're going to save him. Magnus and Alec have a conversation about Camille and about what she was saying back there and about relationships, and Alec basically says, you know, I'm not jealous of Camille, but she's right. You're immortal. You watch everyone you love live their lives and die. Luke comes to get Magnus because it's time for them to use the spell to wake up Jocelyn. And this is the scene that was probably the worst in the episode for me because he does the spell. The spell is fine. He says, Jocelyn, blah, 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 blah. And then he does like this weird hand movement and every time she's like, and that's fine, that's fine. What I don't like is when the bubble thing she's in starts to like defuse, Luke scoops her up before she can hit the floor. She wakes up, looks at him, and she's like, oh, Luke, and she gives him a hug. That was awkward. She doesn't even look around, just looks at Luke. Then she kind of looks around at the Institute for a minute, and then he sets her down, and she slowly turns to Clary. And I'm just like, this scene was so weird. Were they just acting badly? Did they just not know what to do? Was it written badly? Like, hey, make it as slow as possible before you actually look at your daughter. Why would Clary not run up and hug both Jocelyn and Luke? But no, it was like this really awkward silent situation, and I did not like that. Then we jump back to the final scene, which is Valentine is on this big boat, which is the one from the end of the second book, I believe. Jace is at his side, and he's doing this whole huge speech to these newly made Shadowhunters, and then it zooms out and you can see them stretching along the entire length of this freighter. Because it was supposed to be like, oh, look how many men he has, but they were spaced out really far. Like, I don't understand why they were spaced so much. Like, shouldn't they have just been in a big clump in front of him? Because they would have been able to hear him better. There was no actual reason for them to be spaced that far apart. I don't really know what it was for. I think it was more cinematography than anything else, but it was really weird. And at the end of this all, I'm going to be watching season 2. I'm really looking forward to season 2, but as a season finale, this episode was weak. I don't think it was sufficient as a season finale. It was anticlimactic. There was no major arcing plot. There was no major action. And at the end of it all, I did not like it as a finale. As an episode, it would have been fine if this was the pre-finale. Like if next week was the finale, I would have thought it was great. But as a finale, nope, not for me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Go ahead and hit like if you like this video, hit subscribe if you really liked it. Comment down below, let me know what you liked about this episode, what you disliked about it. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, what your favorite scene was, what your least favorite scene was, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye.